Alrighty, good morning, guys. How we doing? So, it's Monday, May the 1st, and, is that right? March, April, May. Yeah, May. And, run a little bit late. Had to wait for Amber to leave. She was taking her grandmother to the doctor. So, today we're going to be in Psalm 57, and, the first six verses, and probably going to talk a little bit about a subject that we've looked at before, but anyway, it's still good. And so David says this. He says, "Have mercy on me, my God, have mercy on me, for in you I take refuge. I will take refuge in the shadow of your wings until the disaster has passed. I cry out to my God Most High, to God who vindicates me. He sends from heaven and saves me, rebuking those who hotly pursue me. God sends forth his love and his faithfulness. I am in the midst of lions, and I am forced to dwell among ravenous beasts, men whose teeth are spears and arrows, whose tongues are sharp swords. Be exalted, O God, above the heavens, and let your glory be over all the earth. They spread a net for my feet, and I was bowed down in distress. They dug a pit in my path, but they have fallen into it themselves." And so, the context of this psalm is David is being pursued by Saul. Now, if you remember the story of David, actually the story of Saul and David, is Saul was the first king of Israel. And oftentimes we don't think about it, but he started off good. And just over time, in the process of learning to trust God, sometimes Saul would try to take matters into his own hands. And because of that, fell into sin. And I think oftentimes it's a lesson that we can learn from Saul is when we try to take things in our own hands and in our own timing, we can get things off track in a hurry. And that's kind of what happened to Saul. And so in the meantime, and we have the cats in the background, by the way. In the meantime, God then commissioned the prophet Samuel to anoint someone else to be king, and that someone else was David. Now at the time he was just a shepherd boy. And so from the time that David was anointed to the time that he actually began to reign in Israel was about probably somewhere between, I think, 9 to 10 to 15 years, somewhere in there. I'm not exactly sure. I'll have to look that up. And so David had to wait for his promise to be fulfilled, the promise of being the king. During that time, he worked for Saul. He was one of Saul's great warriors. And Saul became jealous of David because he just saw how people naturally kind of were drawn to him as a leader. And Saul just became jealous, and over time he decided he was going to get rid of David. And so David kind of went into exile for a season of his life, hiding out from Saul. And this is a psalm where David is just kind of praying through the pressure of being pursued by Saul as he hides out in the caves of Israel. What caught my attention this morning was the second part of verse 1. He says, "I will take refuge in the shadow of your wings until the disaster has passed." For David, Saul pursuing him is just a mess. And it's a mess because, I think that David loved Saul. David was part of Saul's family to some degree. He was even married to one of Saul's daughters. And so for him, his family is sort of fallen apart. And David could, at this moment, he could confront Saul, and he could probably kill Saul, and he could probably just take over the kingdom for himself. But instead of trying to take matters into his own hands, he chooses to wait in the refuge of God. that he's going to just wait for this disaster to pass. He's going to put it in God's hands, and he's just going to hold out to see how God lets it unfold. And I think that that's it's just good wisdom for us. We either find ourselves in one of two places in life. We either find ourselves in a frustrating place or in battles. When we find ourselves in those kind of just those frustrating places, oftentimes the reason that we're frustrated is because there's an opportunity in front of us, but there's a lack on our end to be able to fulfill it. And in those situations, we have to have faith. We have to step out and do the thing that God's called us to do. And if there's a lack on our end, well, we have to figure out how to better our character or our competency so that we can step into the opportunity that the Father has for us. But other times there are situations where it's almost as if something in like the spiritual realm is holding us back. And we have all of the abilities to do the thing that God's called us to do, but we just find ourselves like butting up against a wall. It's like a battle. And in those situations, we have to rely on God's His grace to kind of break through and bring the breakthrough. And so for David, he finds himself in the midst of a spiritual battle here because he has all the abilities in the world to just overthrow Saul. But he doesn't want to take it into his own hands. He wants to wait on the grace of God to bring the breakthrough. He wants to honor God in the midst of it too. And one of the ways that we honor God is we honor the people that God has put in place to rule and to reign over us. And so he's honoring God by honoring Saul and waiting it out. And he's taking refuge in the midst of this waiting. And so I don't know about you. Maybe you're in a season of waiting. Is it a season of waiting where there's something inside of you that needs to grow? Is there something going on inside of you that God is working on, and in this waiting time you have to figure out what that is? Maybe through you're waiting and you have the abilities to do the things that you feel like you're being called to do, but it's just you haven't been given an opportunity. Either way, the thing that we need to do is we need to give those things to God. And we need to learn how to take care of our own business in the waiting time and yet not try to take matters into our own hands. And there's a big difference between the two. So, I don't know, I hope that makes sense to you guys. I know that there's been seasons in my life where it feels like I'm in a waiting or a staging place. And in those seasons, I just try to take care of my own business and try to better myself and wait for the opportunity to present itself as God allows it. So, I don't know if that makes any sense. Hopefully it does. And I hope you guys have a great day. It's Monday. And so, blessings to you guys today on Monday. Make a difference today. Be a blessing to someone else. And we will catch you guys tomorrow morning. Love you guys. Have a great day. Bye.